And the other day, in this very studio, as he sat beside Simon and myself, Souness went into it and demonstrated the passion that he thinks is required. And he told us exactly what he wants to see from Scotland tonight.
When I say it's down to the players, okay, if they've been given the wrong instructions, the wrong tactics, how about winning a challenge occasionally? How about putting some of their players on their arse? How about being aggressive at every moment, every single chance you get to be aggressive, whether it's with an elbow, something not that obvious that will get you in trouble? How about just being aggressive? That's what us jocks do. We are an aggressive nation. We should know no aggression whatsoever. And that is the thing. Anyone can have a bad game. You can get your tactics wrong. But as a player, you do your bit. But I made it personal when I played. I made it so personal that the guy I was playing against was going to have a difficult afternoon or a difficult night. I didn't see any Scottish player with that attitude. Sorry.
Oh, we could do a game Souness tonight, could we not? Alan, you had a broad grin when you were listening to Souness there. But he's right. Aggression, yes, but obviously they need more than that. But it's not a bad start if you've got the aggression.
Well, I think the thing that's made success for this particular group is the energy. They had good energy in the team, a lot of young players, and against Germany, you know, sometimes they can knock it out of you if the opposition are that good. Switzerland are not going to be that good, trust me, so they can get around them. And of course, being a bit aggressive does help. You know, as you say, it is in your DNA. So we like to think that there'll be a bit of that on show. But I genuinely think if I was a Scottish manager tonight, I'd want to see energy. I would want to see a press. Whether you're going to do a mid-block press or you're going to do a high press, it has to be like fully committed and organised. And if they do that right, then they can cause Switzerland some problems.
Is it a big job nonetheless, so Alan, to lift the Scotland dressing room after what happened in Munich against the Germans?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, you can dilute that kind of scoreline quite quickly if you bring yourself together and you get a few days rest or whatever. They've been on the training ground. They know what's expected of them. The criticism they've had, of course, will put fire in their belly, or it should do, and I would expect to see a reaction tonight. You know, they've got to, as I say, kind of have some kind of control over this game, because in Germany, you have to say they had no control over the game at any point, really. And, you know, they have a set play manager. We were talking about this earlier, wasn't we? Yeah. They have a set play coach. Well, they didn't win any set plays, so that would be handy. Win some set plays, score from a set play, that might help.
You're right. Simon, it'd be some player if he had a Souness equivalent running out for Scotland tonight. But it's exactly that kind of outlook. I mean, in the past, opponents would look at the Scotland lineup and think, I don't fancy Souness running at me. It's somebody like him that we could do with in there.
But that's
tonight.
A state of mind. I mean, that's a state of mind and character. I mean, if you talk about technical ability and you bring into Scottish players of the past like John Robertson or Kenny Dalglish or Archie Gilmour or Alan Hansen or Souness, because Souness could play on all levels. But when you're talking about getting up in people's faces and making it difficult and being very competitive and pressing the opposition, and as Graham said, putting them on their backside a few times and letting them know that you're there, then that's a state of mind. And I would be surprised if the Scots don't take away from the game the responsibility that they have to a nation, 250,000 fans coming over here, spending their hard-earned cash, giving them enormous amounts of support and belief in it. And I think you'll see a reaction. Now, whether that reaction is good enough to get a result, that's a different discussion. And I think probably you can speak to this far more eloquently than I can, given that you're a Scot, albeit living in the south, that you would expect them to, at the very least, put it on the Swiss.
Yeah,
and you can live with that if perhaps the Swiss outplay you.
Absolutely right.
You know,
I
but
can't
you
disagree with that.
The players that Simon just named are on a different level to these players technically. So, you know, it's about what you do with the ball. You know, it's all, you can't go into any game at any level, no matter how deficient you are, and say like it's going to be about the fight, it's going to be about the aggression. You have to have a technical level to be able to control the game and score a goal, you know, and keep a clean sheet, for example. So that's what worries me slightly about this particular Scottish team. Have they got the technical level to get past this Swiss team? I think the aggression and the energy will be there.
Where are we technically, though? I mean, Alan, we won't feel disrespected if you say, no, Scotland aren't anywhere near it or as near as where they should be. Where are we going in against the Swiss tonight in terms of technical ability? Well, are we wanting on that front?
I would definitely think the Swiss team are a technically better team than you, and I think they control the game to a greater extent. why there is this limited technical quality coming out of Scotland, I don't know. You know, for years and years they produced the best players. You know, the not just the most aggression, technical mentality, and there's a sprinkling of it in this team, but not nowhere near the levels they've had in previous competitions.
I mean, there's a clamouring. I spoke to a bunch of Scottish lads across the road before we came on air, and we're gonna play you some of their comments later on. You'll enjoy that, I'm sure, if you're especially if you're of Scottish persuasion. But Alan, there's a clamouring amongst them that Billy Gilmour starts tonight,
yeah.
And here we are pinning all our hopes on little Billy, who I remember not that long ago meeting at Stamford Bridge when he was at Chelsea, and I was thinking, God, he's so young. He's still such a youngster. And here we are saying, Billy Gilmour, come on, Steve Clarke, start him. He's so important.
Well, he's had a great season, by the way. And, you know, I don't think his size will be any factor in this. It's just going to be... I think there's a lot of pressure on him because, as you say, the whole kind of nation is calling for him. And I think he will start. But he's definitely got a technical level to control a game of this magnitude. So I would put him in. And as an example, for me, the player, the best individual performance so far is from a 5'4" player from Slovakia called Lobotka, who absolutely run the show. And it'd be great if Gilmour can get to that kind of level and produce a display that can organise the game.
You've got to look at some of the players in the side that Scotland have got. And yes, you don't have this embarrassment of riches. But if you look back to sides of the past with Scotland, you as soon as himself said, he was surrounded at times by players that weren't at that level. But you look at the team that was out against Germany, you've got McTominay, you've got McGinn, you've got Robertson, you've got Tierney. These are good players. And those are the sort of players that you want to see influencing and dragging forward and creating an effect on the field, whether that's from a leadership point of view or whether it's from putting their foot on the ball and looking around and creating some sort of technical aspect to the game. They didn't turn up in the game. McTominay was absent. McGinn, the game passed him by. Robertson always has a lot to say off the field. Let's have a bit more to say on the field. You know, when you're captaining your country and getting things into a situation where the opportunity is there. Look, they've got decent players. They've got decent players that can compete at certain levels. And the Swiss are no world beaters.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not suggesting they're a bunch of cheese eaters, but by the same token, they are also not something that you should go into with any fear.
Yeah. I like that Scottish. Exactly. You know, you can see that aggression coming out of you. I mean, the one thing I would say about McGinn, Tierney, and McTominay, they are not lenders of the ball. They don't lend it to get it back, and Gilmour is. So he give you a bit more control, I think, of the game. They're kind of pass and run kind of players, and I think Gilmour will lend it, get it back, lend it, get it back, and give you some kind of control. As Graham said in that, as you say in that bit earlier, I don't think they had 6 or 7 passes in one sequence.
That's the thing, Alan.
And that's what he will bring, and that gives you the wide players time to make runs and get in behind, etc., etc. So I think for the tempo of the game, he's important.
Alan, I'm not going to tempt fate by putting the point to the fella in my immediate right, but to you, and I mean it. Do you feel within yourself that Scotland can go out there and come off with a win tonight?
No, but I think that. Well, I do think they can win tonight, but I think the game will end in a draw, and I think that's not a bad thing for Scotland.
Okay, Alan Pardew takes a draw. I will go there. What do you think, Simon?
No, I think you'll get beat.
All right, well, I shouldn't have done it, but I did do it. Scotland fans this morning, we're going to take your calls. We might be out here in Dusseldorf in Germany where the action is, but what are your honest thoughts as we go into this? Because it's must win for Scotland. What are your expectations tonight? How much have your feelings been tempered since that result in Munich at the hands of the Germans? What do you want to see from your Scotland side tonight? Let's just take a call from Andy, who's a Rangers and Scotland fan. Andy, good morning. What are your thoughts as the Scots go into this?
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Andy, we're good, thank you. What do you think? What chance do you give Scotland tonight?
To be honest, for me, we need to win it. A draw's not good enough for us tonight. It's a win. We're not blessed with the players of England like Jude Bellingham, Kane, Foden. It's we need to get a bit of aggression, a bit of heart, and hopefully bring the 3 points back.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Souness said he wants to see aggression. Is aggression the watchword here?
Well, obviously that and passion. For me, because we're known for our passion in Scotland, but for me, I've not seen it, obviously, over the past kind of 2 months. But for me, Steve Clarke's not the man for the job, I don't think either. I don't think he's good enough to take us forward. But then I don't
Okay,
know
well,
who
he'll be the man for the job if we can beat them, will he not? I mean, Alan Pardew alongside Simon and myself. Alan, I see you making notes here. What do you think? Aggression, yes, but we need more than that.
Yeah, we need to get away from this aggression because, that's just a small part of the game. I think it's going to be about, the whole picture that they need to produce tonight. Scotland is a performance that has some control over it, a definite sprinkling of aggression, but an energy, and try and wrestle some sort of influence over the Swiss team. We're a very capable team. I think their record's pretty good, going into this tournament, let alone in the tournament. So, as you said, I think Simon said it earlier, that a win for the Swiss sees them through, so they'll be up for it too.
They will. They will.
Well, they want to get it done tonight, won't they? Because they've got Germany next.
Yeah.
And, obviously Germans have started well. They've got some momentum. I don't think we've seen what the Germans are really capable of because, with all due respect and no Mickey taking, they weren't up against much opposition. When they get into better opposition, we'll see if the Germans have got the substance. But the Swiss will want to get it done. But I think the aggression side of things is a more... the reasons why the fans... acquiesce or land on that, a light on that point, is because it's relatable. It's the one thing that you think you should be entitled to see from a footballer, and that's
passion,
what Souness, passion, imposing yourself. Souness is making the point repeatedly about when you're one-on-ones, when you're individual battles. Once you won the individual battles, then you can start to play, and that's what you'd like to see from the Scottish team. There should be no fear of this Swiss team. You should be mindful of the fact that they've done a decent job against Hungary, and I don't think people saw that result coming because the Hungarians were going so well. But the Scots themselves have got players that can influence the game. Now, whether they've got enough quality to score goals, they've scored 3 recently against the Norwegians. They scored a couple the other day against the Finns. They can score goals, but in order to do that, they've got to be further up the bloody field, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've got to be able to string passes together and get some sort of control over the game. Now, whether that's Billy Gilmour, I don't know. Billy Gilmour he's had an all right season at Brighton. If that's your saviour, that's your saviour to some extent. But there also needs to be some of the other players need to turn up. They need to turn up. The McTominays that play for big football clubs, and the McGinns that have got into the Champions League of Aston Villa, and the Robertsons that have played for Klopp, and the Tierneys that have played at Arsenal and at Celtic. These boys have got to turn up and start showing a little bit of what it looks like to be so-called top players, and maybe that will sprinkle and make the other players raise their game a little bit.
I like that. You almost sounded passionate about
Scotland.
Scotland.
A goalkeeper can do more than pick the ball out of the back of the bloody net as well.
Yeah, and just going on to Sue's point, in between he was talking about all that aggression, but in there he said, I like to impose myself on the opposing player. And actually the German game, not one individual player come out on top. Now in this game tonight, they're going to need at least 5 to win their individual battles. And those players he just named are the sort of 5 that you'd expect to win their battle.
Okay, Scotland going against Switzerland tonight in the Cologne Stadium. 8 o'clock back home, at 9 o'clock over here. It's live on talkSPORT. Come on, Scotland, he said with complete impartiality.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.